Hey, what's up guys, Darkbreaker here, and in today's video with a new tier list for the patch 5.1 we have massive changes. New champion Kalista just came out, then we have tons of champion changes. One of the biggest changes, or one of the biggest highlights I would say, is definitely Master Yi. Master Yi stonks through the roof. The stonks are going up. I would invest right now into Master Yi stocks if I was one of you guys, because this guy is absolutely broken. And I'm gonna describe, or I'm gonna explain the kit and why he is so good right now in the jungle part of the tier list. On top of that, look at this. Item changes, new item terminals. It's gonna be super good on a few champions like Kindred, for example, some ADCs, Irelia potentially, Shyvana. I tried out on Shyvana, absolutely nuts. Then obviously Yone, Yasuo. These champions terminals is really good. And then of course the Light and Ruin theme. A lot of items got buffed, having better stats, but having increased gold. And then for the Ruin part, you're losing HP, but at the same time you're getting increased stats, or increased damage, or increased effects on top of that. So these changes are affecting the item build, and a lot of champions are getting way better. And if you guys want to know what are the best champions for each position and why I'm ranking certain champions at a certain tier list, then definitely stay tuned. I'm gonna give you guys my in-depth explanation. You guys can learn what are the best champions from Sovereign player opinion. Wow, let's go. Yeah, hope you guys will enjoy this tier list. Obviously, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you guys are enjoying the tier list. Write down below in the comments which champions are broken in your opinion. Which champions do you ban in ranked right now? The new season's just started. How are you guys doing? I'm actually doing not that bad. I think in 20 games I have a 70% win rate right now, and I've played a lot of champions. I've tried a lot of champions out. Every game I'm trying a new champion for content. Obviously we need the clickbait, the broken new item, terminus new broken item, light ruin new item. Of course we need that. But yeah, let's get started. Obviously remember, this is my opinion. It's just a suggestion for you guys, and maybe sometimes there's a personal bias about some champions when they're absolutely dog shit because of bad players. But let's get started with Baron lane, then jungle, then mid lane AC and support, and obviously there will be timestamps for you guys as well. Let's get started with the Baron lane. Honestly, for the Baron lane, there are no big changes in my opinion. Even though they did remove Hullbreaker, a lot of these champions are not necessarily reliant on Hullbreaker. For example, Jax, Camille, maybe Garen and Sion. Nice to have, but they don't necessarily need it. So for S+ tier, Aatrox still very good, and he also benefits from items like Stark's Gauge and Twingard getting buffed, making him even more beefy. And yeah, Aatrox, what makes him good? What makes Aatrox good is that he has tons of sustain, he has a lot of damage, and he has decent amount of crowd control. So he's a great duelist, he's tanking teamfights on top of that. He's pretty much an all-rounder, good at every stage of the game. And when I put champions in S+ tier, for you guys who are not aware, these champions are in my opinion so good that they can 1 vs 9 games. Obviously you can't 1 vs 9 every single game, but they're good enough to 1 vs 9 games sometimes, even though your bot lane is 0-10 or something. That's why kind of condition our champions where I'm like, okay, they need to be that good, they need to have that carry potential. They need to have that carry potential, and if they have that carry potential, then I put them into S+ here, and Aatrox is one of them. Same for Kali. Akali is benefiting from the item changes as well. Riftmaker got buffed, Infinity Orb got buffed, and Deathcat got buffed. So all of these items getting buffed makes Akali's damage even higher. Her damage output is crazy. She's one of the best assassins in the game. And yeah, on top of that, she has the stealth in the teamfight that is really, really good to just jump in and then snipe one of the backlines off and just assassinate them. And she's really good in the 1v1 as well. Garen, in my opinion, he's very tanky. He's super solid. I mean, he has tons of damage. He has damage reduction. He's good split pusher. He is just very solid and easy to play. Jax, one of the best split pushers in the game and scales like a truck into the late game. Camille, very similar. She has true damage on top of that. She has high mobility and her ultimate is great at catching people. Renekton, why do I like Renekton? Renekton has one of the best early games. He is tanky, has a lot of damage, and he has a lot of mobility. Honestly, I think this might be outdated. Is it outdated? He does fall behind in the late game though, so you could argue and put him like high S tier instead of S plus tier. If you guys think he's not S par, you could also put him here, to be fair, around here. Next, Gwen. Gwen is benefiting from the buffs on Riftmaker, giving her even more true damage. She's one of the best late game hyper carry AP champions that does true damage, and she shreds through all the tanks. Now we got it. And if you guys want to and go Infinity Orb, your ultimate can nuke people from far away. Like 2 ultimate shots can literally one-shot people in the late game. Because the threshold onto Infinity Orb got changed. Instead of 35%, below 35% you will crit, it's below 45%. So it allows a lot of AP champions to nuke people down. And I forgot to say, we have new runes as well. We have Empowerment, aka PTA, that's really good on some champions like Aurelia, on Kindred, Kayle as well. And then we have Comet, that is really good on champions like Orianna, Morgana, Aurelion Sol, you name it. Let's move on to Gragas. He's also benefiting from the buffs, obviously. I mean, to be fair, everyone is benefiting. Everyone has like 1 or 2 core items that got buffed on this patch. So everyone is doing way more damage, by the way. This is the patch where you get one-shotted or you one-shot. One shot, get one shot. It's like Arena Vela right now where everyone is OP. You get one-shotted or you one-shot. This is the meta of wildrift right now. Because everyone is doing way more damage and the ruin items are lowering your HP. So you like, yo, more squishy while doing way more damage. So it's a one-shot meta right now. And let's move on. Wait, yeah, Gragas, very solid, does a lot of good poking damage. Then he can also build tank. He has a lot of crowd control, playmaking potential, etc. Let's move on to Sett. Sett is a champion that is pretty beefy. He's so tanky. He has really, really good teamfight potential. His second ability does true damage, and he has tons of crowd control. Urgot got nerfed, so he is weaker now in comparison to before, and he's very good against tanks as well, so they nerfed the damage against tanks. But Urgot benefiting obviously from the buffs on Stark's Gauge, Twin Guard, and potentially he could run Barmox as well, making him super tanky, and then Titanic Hydra and like, I don't know, Heartsteel, just becoming super tanky and still doing a lot of damage. Darius is a very good Juggernaut that has tons of damage, sustain, true damage, reset mechanic, but the problem is he's very easy to kite in my opinion. Next one is gonna be Sion. Sion is tanky, good in teamfight, good split pusher, just super annoying because of his split push inting playstyle. Malphite, excellent counter against physical damage dealers. Then he has an excellent ultimate for teamfights. Now Shen is a nice team-based playmaker that has a global ultimate to join teamfights and has the taunt to initiate, and taunt people. Jace is a very strong early game champion that has both can be played both as a melee champion as well as a range champion, using his melee form to jump in, doing a lot of damage, and obviously be poking from the cannon form, for long range poke. Super annoying to deal with in the early game. He's one of the most oppressive laning phases in the game. He kind of falls off in the late game, I would say, but during the early mid game, Jace is super strong. Mundo is very tanky, has good damage, and the buffs on Varmox and Twingard are making Mundo super tanky while doing a decent amount of damage, making him very, very beefy. The more HP you have, the better Mundo as well. Let's move on to Riven. High mobility burst damage! Riven. Problem is just how her matchups in the Baron lane are not that easy. She has a lot of, I would say, kind of harder matchups that require a lot of skill, but overall, she has so much mobility, she has so much damage. Just that team fighting can be hard against certain team compositions if they're too tanky or they have too much mobility. Vladimir on this patch is super, super good. The only problem is in the Baron lane, he will struggle in comparison to the mid lane, where he gets punished easier since the lane is longer and he has some harder lane matchups as well. But yeah, in the late game, he's a monster right now. Yone and Yasuo are super good, obviously, in the late game. Monsters in the late game, especially with the Terminus and the buffed Infinity Edge, but they are kinda weak in the early game. Fiora got the quality of life change onto the second ability, that you can use the second ability while dashing onto the, or with the first ability. She's an excellent split pusher, but she sucks in teamfights. I mean, she's very hard to play in teamfights, especially against certain team comps. I mean, guys, you guys will know, if you play against high mobility team compositions that have a lot of crowd control, it is so hard for Fiora to do something, especially if your bot lane is inting. And if you play on my account, you will know my bot lane is always inting. My bot lane is always inting. Let's move on to Aurelia. I think Aurelia is pretty nice with empowerment and potentially also Terminus. High skill ceiling champion. You need a lot of matchup knowledge and micro gameplay, because you need to have the mechanic to play Aurelia and be proficient on her. So she is definitely not easy to play, and you need a lot of games if you want to master Aurelia. And I have sometimes some really good games on Aurelia, but I'm far away from those Aurelia one-trick ponies that have like thousands of games on her. Let's move on to... Oh, wait, I forgot to move this guy. He doesn't deserve ST anymore. Oh, for sure not. On is pretty good in teamfights, has a lot of crowd control, is tanky. That's it. Wukong. Honestly, I don't like the Wukong rework. Not having the healing onto the first ability anymore, you definitely notice that he just isn't that good anymore. He's okay, he has the ultimate in teamfights, he has a bit of sustain, gets some resistance on the passive, but he isn't the sustained tanky team playmaker, teamfight playmaker that he used to be. It's okay, but not that special. Akshan is a very nice niche pick, can be great counter against some certain champions. Kinda squishy though, and can be easy countered by the enemy jungler if he gets camped. But yeah, he is good counter against certain champions, and late game he is super good thanks to his damage and also thanks to the revive mechanic on the second ability. Teemo is a pain in the ass because in the early game he's very good. In the mid game he kind of falls off and gets killed in the 1v1. And then in the late game, his shrooms are super good though. If you get like 4 or 5 items and you can cover the whole map with the shrooms. Diana in the top lane is playable. Obviously, she's good in teamfights, but she will have a hard time against a lot of champions. Cannon is good in the early game, falls off though in the 1v1, but obviously he's still excellent in teamfights. Swain, too scaling I would say, but provides a lot of crowd control and is tanky. Pantheon on the other hand is a champion that excels in the early game. He wants to snowball, but if he doesn't snowball, or even if he snowballs, he falls off in the mid and late game. And I would say he loses a lot of matchups. Tryndamere, my goat Tryndamere, I'm gonna put him S tier. Tryndamere right now is super good. Even in the 1v1, after level 5, you're winning a lot of matchups, and in the late game, he is a monster. You guys will see in the jungle, I'm gonna place my man Trinomere. Trinomere has super high win rate. I think he has the 3rd highest win rate among junglers in Diamond Plus. Graves can be good against some champions, but overall he's very scaling and he needs a lot of items. But if he gets to the power spike point where he's like more than 3 items, he can become a big threat in teamfights or in general. Jarvan, good in the early game, but really isn't like a champion where you're like, wow, this champion is super good in the 1v1. Obviously he's still good in teamfights though. Singe is really good in the team fight, he has really good catch potential, but he sucks in the early game. Vayne is an excellent hard counter against certain champions, since she's a ranged champion, scales like a truck into the late game, but she is pretty easy to punish when the enemy jungler just camps her. Nasus is too scaling in wildrift in my opinion. He needs a lot of time to stack up, but you won't have the time to stack up. He becomes a late game monster though. Kayle! Yeah, Kayle is honestly just shit. At least in top lane. Not jungle, but top lane. Top lane, she's just shit. She's weak in the early game, I say it every single time. She's weak in the early game, she's easy to punish, she loses the 1v1, she needs way too much time to scale. Even Nass is way more useful than a Kayle before she gets useful. Like she needs, I would say she needs 4 or 5 items, 4 or 5 items, and like close to level 15. Let's move on to jungle. So for jungle, there are 2 champions that are the strongest right now. Kindred and Talon are the strongest jungler right now, and you can even tell it by the win rate, by the way. The win rate for Master plus Kindred or even Diamond is above 60%. Because her early game damage is crazy. And look at Talon. Talon also having very high win rate across the board. Like even in Challenger Plus, 58. And in Challenger Plus, Kindred has 65. 59, 60 plus, 63. I wouldn't count Diamond Plus too much. I prefer to count like Master Plus. But you can see these 2 champions are like standing above everyone else. Everyone else is like around 50. Who's the weakest? Twitch. Whoa. But yeah, these are like the average win rates across like a lot of players, obviously. So, but if you play these champions, you can definitely tell. Kindred in the early game is already very good in the 1v1. She wins most 1v1s because she does so much damage, and she is, I think her playset is super good because you have the mark system. Whenever you use the mark on the jungler, you see where the enemy jungler is. So you know the positioning of the enemy jungler, you know where to gank, you know where he is, you can know where to counter gank, and Kindred scales. Like Kindred is one of the best late game champions. She does so much damage. She's very good at kiting the opponents because she has the perma dash on the first ability, and then she has ultimate to save herself and others. And if you know the repulse mechanic, like with the enchantment, you can push people away from your ultimate, you're healing yourself, and then you're just getting away. So Kindred is super good right now. Like, if you watch my latest Kindred video, you guys will see 2 games just absolutely demolishing people. Now Talon. My average kills on Talon right now are in, I think I've played him 15 games, 70% win rate, and I have 13 kills on average on Talon. Talon has a lot of damage, especially now with the buffed Yumus. He has so much mobility thanks to the 3rd ability right now, and there is little counterplay. Since they buffed his damage, with the ultimate he just jumps stealth onto a squishy, one-shots them, and he gets out so fast right now. The biggest problem before him was his numbers were low, and the dash was very clunky, like was like not smooth at all to jump over walls, but he can dash so smooth over walls getting away. Too much mobility. His jungle, I know he got nerfed, but his jungle is still very good. He's just so good right now. Like, these 2 are definitely the highlight right now in the jungle. Let's move on to Lee Sin. Lee Sin is still very good. high mobility, early game pressure, just super good 1vs9 champion. Evelyn, there's I got told there are 2 bugs on Evelyn right now. First of all, Evelyn is so good because of the buffed Infinity Orb right now, just one-tapping everyone. Horizon Focus. If you use the second ability, while you have Horizon Focus, you can proc the Horizon Focus and you get vision on everyone. And then secondly, you can also proc, what's the name again? Edge of Night Spell Shield. Edge of Night Spell Shield, and wait. I'm gonna mute real quick. Edge of Night Spell Shield, and what is the other name? We don't have Banshee anymore. Crown Spell Shield is also getting removed from Horizon Focus when you use the second ability, even though you don't do damage. So yeah, her stealth, very easy to snowball on this champion. Hecarim, high mobility, tanky, sustain, tons of damage. Kha'Zix, reset mechanic, tons of isolation damage, really good objective control, but he is not easy to play right now, unless they're all squishies, by the way. Let's move on to Kayn. Yeah, Blue Kayn, just one-shotting everyone, has like very high mobility against squishies. Against squishies, you can use Blue Kayn, you just one-shot everyone. He has really high poking, like really high mobility and poking damage. Then in the red form, you just demolish tanks because of the percentage damage. Aatrox, I already explained it in the Baron part, what makes him good. Master Yi right now. So first of all, his second ability, you can use the second ability in between your auto attacks, and the second ability gives you 90% damage reduction for 0.5 seconds. If you time it well, you can pretty much negate big damages. Then the third ability, auto attack reset mechanic, so you can use auto attack, third ability, getting 2 auto attacks immediately off, and the ultimate gives you more cooldown reduction onto the second ability, so you can use the second ability multiple times in a team fight whenever you kill someone, making Master Yi super good right now, especially in lower ranks. I think in Diamond Plus, Master Yi's win rate will be top 5 or something, or even like probably within top 5 when this is getting updated, because this is before the patch. But I would say Master Yi will be top 5 in Diamond Plus for sure. He just does so much damage. His outplay potential is crazy right now. His skill ceiling got way higher than it used to be. But I still think there are some team comps where Master Yi will struggle a lot, like if they are very tanky or have a lot of pro control. But I think in Diamond Plus he will be super good. I think in Challenger Plus he's playable, but in certain compositions. In Diamond Plus he will be a monster, like giga monster. Yone is super good right now because of Terminus and Infinity Edge buff. Late game monster. Shyvana, a Blade of the Rune King got buffed, Starrock's Gauge got buffed, Twingard got buffed, and Terminus is so good on her. So she will have so much damage while being super tanky. One of the best 1vs9 late game champions. Tryndamere also, he has so much damage and so much sustain right now. And he can probably also run Terminus. Did I play Tryndamere with Terminus yet? I think I didn't play Tryndamere YouTube video yet. I need to play Tryndamere on the new patch. He can run Empowerment, but you probably just run Lethal Tempo and Terminus, Infinity Edge, just doing so much damage. Gregor, Diana, Fizz, AP champions are just so good right now. You're just getting Infinity Orb, Lichbane, Deathcap, and you're nuking the whole game, the whole enemy team. Fizz, one of the best late game scaling AP assassins as well. Gregor's, Regal Poke, Diana, high mobility, and excellent team fights. Sintra also benefiting from the buffs on Starrock's Gauge, Humus, and Twingard, and he can also run Terminus, making him super tanky while doing a lot of damage. Renekton in jungle, just tanky, doing a lot of damage as well. Volibear is super tanky, insane playmaker, and he can dive with his ultimate. Nunu, he's super beefy while also being able to spam gank people. Amumu is excellent in team fights. Ramos, spam ganking monster, is very tanky and great counter against physical damage. Nautilus, either you go him AP, just one-shotting people, or you building him tanky. He has good jungle clear speed, he has a lot of crowd control, and he's tanky. Olaf is excellent at countering tanky champions or champions that rely on their crowd control for the self-peel, but if they have too much mobility, Olaf sucks. Darius kind of similar. Darius is kind of similar. Like if they have too much mobility, he's really bad against them, especially if they have too much crowd control. But his playmaking and his damage and his sustain and tanking is super good. Jarvan, either play him full assassin, one-shotting everyone, or you're playing him tanky as a playmaker. Really good overall. His jungle pressure in the early game is super good. Fiddlesticks! Fiddlesticks is also, like, obviously in teamfights he is excellent. Then with the Hextech Flash mechanic is super good to just jump into the opponents. Just, like, if you land one good ultimate, you can solo carry teamfights. Riven, I already explained her. Vi is also very similar to Sinchao, like based on the kit. Very good jungler, tanky, good damage. Morgana, probably with Comet maybe, really good poking damage overall. Good jungle clear speed as well, and high crowd control with the binds and the ultimate. Pantheon is one of the best early game junglers because of his damage and his ganks. His ganks are so easy, using his second ability, jumping onto someone, stunning them, and then his ultimate also being able to gank or like rotate very fast. Dr. Mundo is overall super tanky, and already explained his kit in the Baron name part. Graves got buffed. His jungle clears is okay. He needs items though, but when he has the 3 items, he becomes super good doing tons of damage. And oh, I should play Graves with the new items. Infinity Edge got buffed. Terminus is good on him as well. Yes. I should play Graves and Trinamel for the new YouTube videos. I forgot that. And also Rengar! Rengar! I saw Rengar is just Rengar with buffed Infinity Edge and maybe Terminus. Also super good. I saw someone was running, I think he was running Yumo's Ghostblade buffed, Infinity Edge, then he had Trinity, Essence Reaver, Terminus or something. Something like that. He was cooking. He was one-shotting people super fast. Rengar might be... The thing is, I'm not that good on Rengar, but Rengar is... When he's snowballing, he's a monster, but when he's not snowballing, he's a little kitty cat. But with the build, could be good. So, potentially, new Rengar, Graves, and Trinamel videos I could try to make. Nice. Shen, I think Shen is fine. Jungle is okay, his ultimate is good for counter ganks, but in solo queue I'm not a fan of Shen, because even if you use a nice ultimate, it might just be wasted because your ally, no synergy with your ally. Urgot jungle clear is overall pretty good and his ganks are good. Camille, her ganks are super good, her jungle clear is super painful though, but her late game, when she gets into the late game, she's really good. Nila's jungle clear kinda meh, but when she has items, her team fighting and her damage are crazy. Especially if you have Nila plus Yumi or Nila plus Lulu. She's just running everyone down. Jay's jungle clear is okay-ish. His early game damage is good, but he falls off in the late game kinda. But overall he's good poking damage. Kale with Empowerment and Terminus is super good. The only downside is just that she needs a lot of time to farm and her early game is pretty weak. Lilia's early game is also pretty weak and she needs a lot of items. She can be good against tanky champions though because of her true damage. Gwen also... I already explained Gwen. But in the jungle, the problem is her jungle clear speed is slow and she needs to farm a lot of items. But in the late game, she's a monster. Aurelia overall pretty good, but high skill ceiling. I already explained her kit in the Baron lane part. Fiora also in the early game super good, but hard to play in teamfights. Echo. Yeah, Echo. The problem about Echo is just that his jungle clear is very bad and he needs a lot of time to scale. But when he gets into the late game, he just one-shots everyone. He becomes super good. Zed, definitely playable in the jungle, but high skill ceiling. He has some nice mechanics, being able to dive champions under the turret, but very snowball reliant. Jax, jungle clear, kinda slow, but late game he becomes a monster. Becomes super good in teamfights. Wukong, honestly, I could put him 8 here, but Wukong just falling off. I don't like the rework. I think he's way weaker than he used to be. His sustain is just way worse. I mean, he still has the ultimate in teamfights that is nice. Warwick, kinda hit and miss. Even if he's snowboarding, like, he is a good ganker, but even if he snowboards, he's just bad in teamfights. Sion, kinda slow. I don't know why I put him there. I should put him jungle. No one plays him jungle anyways. Pyke, very snowball reliant champion, but if it works, he's just roaming and ganking the whole map because of his mobility. Twitch also very snowball reliant in my opinion. His early game is very weak, his jungle clear is bad. He needs to cheese in the early game, going for early game ganks. But if you manage to get those off, in the late game he's a monster. Now let's move on to mid lane. For the mid lane, I don't think it changed too much, because everyone is benefiting from the items. We have Horizon Focus that gives long range champions more damage when they land a hit. Then we have the Comet mechanic, the Comet rune, that allows long range poking champions to have really good damage as well. And otherwise, obviously, Infinity Orb got buffed, allowing assassins to do more damage. Riftmaker got buffed, allowing mages to do more true damage. Death Cap also got buffed, giving you more AP. I think those are the major AP item changes. Syndra, obviously, very good long range poking champion with insane burst damage. Akali, I already explained her kit, her assassination potential is crazy, and her one-shot potential is crazy. Kassadin. Yeah, Kassadin is a monster, obviously. Like, in the late game, he's just one-shotting everyone while having high mobility. Vladimir, late game monster, too much sustain, too much damage. Diana, insane in the team fights, has a lot of burst damage, has a lot of mobility, her ultimate is super good in team fights. Lux, long range poke, very good utility thanks to the shielding. Then she has the long range bind, and her ultimate does a lot of damage. So if you have Horizon Focus and you mark someone, like you land your first ability into ultimate, you're just nuking people. Corki, long range poke, really good team fights because of package and decent mobility as well. Yone and Yasuo, I already explained those two. They have way too much damage. That's about it. Yone in the late game, way too much damage and playmaking potential. Yasuo, especially tank Yasuo, is super tanky while doing way too much damage. Then we have Zed. I think Zed in the mid lane is one of the best assassins because of his 1v1 potential. Yumus also got buffed, and then he's an excellent split pusher as well. Zoe is also benefiting from Horizon Focus, allowing her to do even more damage. Has really good poking damage and just burst people. Aurelion got kind of nerfed, I would say, because it's harder for him to stack up his starters right now, but the comment is super good on Aurelion, so allowing him to do a lot of damage, and his teamfighting is good. Ziggs benefiting from, I'm not sure if people are running Comet or First Strike on him, but definitely Horizon Focus is super good on Ziggs right now, because if you you hit someone with Horizon Focus, they will take 12% more damage, so your ultimate is going to do so much damage in the team fights, and you have vision on them. Having vision on them allows you to land your ultimate even easier. Talon is a great assassin, but he isn't as good in comparison as in the jungle. But yeah, he has high mobility, so he can roam on the map very quick and gank. His wave clear is also good with the second ability. Katarina, kinda the if factor, like you get one reset and then suddenly she just kills everyone. Jay strong in the laning phase, has really good poking damage. Zyra, really good in team fights, has really good annoying harassment with the plants, and the plants got also buffed. Teemo in the mid lane, super annoying because of his guerrilla playstyle in the shrooms. Akshan, very strong in the laning phase, super good roamer as well, and scales into late game very well. Empowerment and Terminus can be very good on him as well. Twist of Fate, macro machine, has good crowd control with the gold card, and the ultimate allows him for macro control on the map, like ganking left and right. Karma is good in team fights, she has a lot of utility and poking damage, and her ultimate is good in team fights. Swain, also very good in team fights, kind of weak in the early game, but once he has items, he becomes very tanky and has a lot of crowd control. Fist is one of the best late game scaling assassins in the game. Gregor super solid AP poking champion. Ari excellent playmaking assassin with high mobility and the charm for playmaking potential. Oriana benefiting definitely from the comet, allowing her to have even more poking damage and has a lot of utility, and team fights she's obviously super good. Vega kind of scaling, but his Eventorizing the cage is so good in the right hands, especially if you have like one tank in front of you. I'm not sure if people run Comet on Vega, not sure. Now with Galio, Galio is a good poking champion with high crowd control, kinda tanky against AP champions because of his magic damage reduction, and then the global ultimate to join team fights, knocking people up and then taunting them. So very good utility based team fight poking champion. Aurelia in the mid lane is pretty good because of her 1v1 potential, and obviously when she snowballs she has so much mobility and so much damage. Annie is excellent in team fights with a playmaking potential, using the ultimate with a flash Tibbers or protoball Tibbers. Vex, great assassin with a reset mechanic, has the fear mechanic as well, and long range poke. Cannon, obviously, his ultimate is just super good in team fights. Lucian is very oppressive in the laning phase, he has high mobility and really good damage. Pyke, what makes Pyke good in the mid lane is for sure that he is so good at roaming and making plays happen, and then the ultimate is good for the reset mechanic and just cleaning up the whole team fight. Gwen is weak in the laning phase and needs a lot of time for scaling, that's why just A tier. Brand has really good poking damage. Brand has really good damage and poking damage, but the problem is his lack of mobility. Morgana is kinda weak in the early game and struggles against a lot of champions, plus her early game, remember I said early game wave clear is not that good, so she can't really roam. But obviously later stages, she has good poking damage, good wave clear, and good crowd control. Pantheon is strong in the early game, but I will explain that he kinda falls off and is very snowball reliant. His ultimate is so good in the mid lane though, because he can join fights in the top lane and bot lane super easy. Garen, solid tank in the mid lane. Echo is scaling, but he becomes pretty good in team fights. Seraphine, I would say she is pretty weak in the early game. She's very easy to kill for a lot of champions in the 1v1. She can't really roam, but her utility and her ultimate are so good in team fights. Kayle in the mid lane is a little bit better than in the Baron lane, because in the mid lane she can farm easier. In the late game she becomes a monster, but very scaling. Lilia also very scaling in the mid lane, that's why I just put a B tier. And pretty situational pick, like you want to pick up more against melee champions or tanky champions to counter. Let's move on to ADC. So for ADC, we have a few top champions. Kai'Sa is still one of the best ADCs in my opinion. She has tons of damage, she has really good mobility, she has stealth, and she can reposition herself and getting a shield. Also her single target damage is insane. Tristana is one of the best late game champions in the game. She does tons of damage and has really good range. Ezreal, late game monster with high mobility and really good poking damage. Lucian, I'm not sure if people have tried empowerment on Lucian, but empowerment on Lucian should be pretty good. Maybe even try Terminus on him. High mobility, one of the best laning phases in the game, and yeah, just does tons of damage. Sivir, what makes her good is pretty much her ultimate. Her ultimate is a You press it and you win the team fight. It's just super good utility. And she does good damage on team fights as well. Saya got buffed. Saya got buffed and she does way more damage right now. And they also lowered the cooldown of her abilities, allowing her to use them more often. So Saya, good self-heal, good damage. But she's definitely not that easy to play, I would say. She's one of the, I guess, harder to play champions in teamfights, like using the feathers correctly. And obviously her ultimate is very good for self-heal. Vayne is one of the best tank shredders. She has a lot of mobility and true damage. Let's move on to Varus. Varus is, I would say, his poking damage is super good and he has really good utility for team fights. Neela kinda situation pick for some team comps. Her early game is not that good, but her late game team fights are insane when she has some setup. Jhin got slightly buffed. His laning phase was pretty good, but I would say in the late game he kind of falls off in comparison to others. Overall he has really good damage though. Corki is excellent in teamfights, he has good poking damage and he has the package as well. Caitlyn, she is very good at every stage of the game, doing a lot of damage, having one of the longest ranges in the game, especially in the early game. Just good damage, long range, very easy to play as well. Samira is pretty much very similar to Neela, that she needs the right setup to jump in and then she has the reset mechanic and the ultimate just doing so much damage. Draven is one of the most oppressive and strongest laners in the game, but at the same time he's very snowball reliant and he lacks mobility. So he's easier to kill than some other ADCs that are just super, like they just kite the opponent so hard. Misfortune, early game super good and her ultimate is very good on teamfights as well. Ashe has a lot of utility, but I would say her damage is not that good and her early game is kind of weak. Jinx, Zeri and Twitch are super weak in the early game, very scaling, but in the late game they become monsters. Jinx with a reset mechanic, Twitch with tons of damage and long range damage, Zeri being able to run people down, and then we have Kalista. I would say Kalista, the new champion, is not that easy to play in team fights. And I think she's very reliant on having a good duo Q, like a tanky duo Q to use the ultimate correctly. Her early game is weak, but once she has enough items, she can be super good in team fights with the right setup and the right team partner to use the ultimate correctly. So she's definitely not that easy to play. That's why most people are inting on her. I would say, yeah, 80 is fine. Senna ADC, I don't really like Senna ADC, and I think she needs a lot of time to scale, and even if she scales, other ADCs just outshine her. So for support, obviously, Ramos support as plus tier. No, I'm just kidding. It's a meme, by the way, because I've been playing with Ramos main a few times and he was using Ramos support and we won pretty much every game where he was using Ramos support, so it's a meme pick. So you guys can tell me what you guys think about Ramos support when you are watching it on stream. Yeah, Yuumi is still absolutely broken. I don't need to explain it. They keep nerfing her, but when Yuumi is sitting on a hyper carry, that hyper carry becomes a monster, just runs everyone down. It's unplayable. Pyke, insane support playmaker. Just does tons of damage. Reset mechanic, just super annoying because of his roams. Lulu, very similar explanation to Yuumi. Being able to just buff someone up that just runs everything down, giving attack speed, shielding, being able to like silence someone with the polymorph, and then the ultimate just basically is a free knockup. Soraka has way too much healing, especially in the late game. Lux, already explained it, too much utility and damage as a support. Thresh is one of the best playmakers in the game, with the hook, with the lantern, with the flinging people away or pulling them in, and with the ultimate to zone people. Alistar, very tanky and has excellent playmaking potential with his knockup. Rakan also one of the fastest playmakers in the game thanks to his combo, allowing him to knock people up and charming them. Nautilus is super tanky and has a lot of crowd control. Galio also very tanky, good playmaking potential with the knockup, with the taunt and with the ultimate. Gragas is tanky, has good playmaking potential with the ultimate to push people in or push people away, and then with the dash he can knock people back. Leona is super beefy, has an excellent single target stun, good initiator against enchanters, and her ultimate can be very good in teamfights. Braum Shield is super good against poke, then his first ability allows you to stun a single target, like pretty long stun now, and then the ultimate for disengage or playmaking or like engaging in. Karma, good shielding and utility and good poking damage. Nami has a lot of utility, poking damage, healing and buffing people up, allowing them to get attack speed, bubble for playmaking, ultimate for playmaking, either as a disengage tool or as an engage tool. But most of the times it's better to use it as a disengage tool. Like people are chasing you, use a nice bubble or a nice ultimate, and then you can turn a team fight. Sona is kind of weak in the early game, but in the mid and late game, when she's starting to get items, her healing and her shielding are nuts. Zyra has good utility, good crowd control and good damage in teamfights. Morgana is kind of weak in the early game, but she has really good poking damage and crowd control. Ashe, very good utility, but she's very situation pick, needs the right team comp. Her arrow, obviously insane playmaker. Senna is like a second hyper carry with a lot of utility and damage and crowd control, but you need the right team setup, like having a front line to play around with. Janna is a good enchanter with a self-peel and disengaging factors, allowing you to protect your allies with the shielding and the ultimate to push people back. Zed is a tanky champion with tons of playmaking potential, like I said, using the ultimate or using the third ability, catching people off guard or pushing them into your allies. Blitzcrank kind of coin flip champion, hit or miss, either you can land a nice hook onto the hyper carry or you're useless. Seraphine is weak in the early game, but her ultimate is a good playmaker or game changer in teamfights. If you land a nice ultimate, you can solo win the game. But yeah, that's good for the tier list. I talked a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I see you guys next time, and write down below what champions do you hate the most right now? And I see you guys. Bye bye.
Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.